Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show, the Dave and Tom show, in which we try to enlighten people and we try to let people know what's going on current events, and then we put a little opinion on it. We try to be an honest opinions. And also, I must remind everybody that everything we talk about, I have sources, UPI mostly, in which I find a lot of news, world news, and other sources I'll mention as I go. We're not here to stir up any trouble. We're actually here to stop some of the rhetoric that's going on now. I mean, it's a horrible situation between the ex-president and the president we have now. It's the heat needs to be turned down a little bit, but we're also being syndicated through it's odyssey-radio-live.com and Eddie Carson, and that's WODY Radio in Maryland. So you can go to that website and pick up the audio portion of the show. And myself, it's Dave Emmons. And then, of course, Tom Althouse is the other host here. And it's the Dave and Tom show, as I said. Tom, you got anything for openings? Anything you want to say? Or
Yeah, I've really have not seen this kind of intense, not only the rhetoric, but tactics and maneuvers in a long time. And it's almost like everybody's bringing out their sledgehammers, and
right.
it definitely needs to cool down. I mean, we're talking every tool in the shed is being thrown.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm older than you. I have never seen anything like this.
Mm-mm,
I've seen the Nixon thing. I've been through the Kennedy and Johnson thing.
mm-mm,
And I've been through, most all the presidents. And this is where it's really getting ugly. Ever since Trump come in 2016, they were after him from day one, actually a year before he actually started running or
mm-mm.
campaigning. So, where is it all going? What's going on? We're going to read some current events now to let you know what's going on. We might give some opinion on it. Of course, the judge, and this is UPI, the judge grants Trump during Labor Day special master to review the Mar-a-Lago documents. Judge
Mm-hmm.
Aileen Cannon, and she was talking about the staged picture. They were looking at that. No comment on that. Nobody's said anything one way or the other, and it that would hold up the investigation now since there's a special master. That's what the DOJ and the judge asked the DOJ, why do you not want Trump to have a special master? Of course, we know now that it's going to hold up the investigation for a long time, and it'll be after the election this November that they won't be able to do very much with that unless the special master does a thorough job quickly. Uh, and there's a third party federal attorney that'll be appointed to that. There's a 24-page ruling. Of course, I can't go through all that, but the DOJ reasons to stop the order. They said it was that they they have the evidence. They have already went through the documents, and they have. And of course, there's been say so on both sides, not to stir up any conspiracies on this, but that's where we'll leave it at that. What's your thoughts, Tom?
I just don't trust the court system in this country. And I've seen so much gamemanship and political connections. It really is owned by big business at the moment in most venues. And a lot of times these court systems are it's like the businesses figured out how to work it. They know how to run out statute and latches. They know how to influence judges. They know how to wine, dine, and make sure no discovery is made and shut down other parties that don't have the finances that the bigger ones do out of the game. And so I would say to people, this is not the time to use the court system until fairness is restored in this country. So I think you're going to see a lot of, and
Yeah, we just had a glitch. Sorry, Tom. Zoom glitch.
as expected, yeah,
We're expecting that. Yes.
yeah, they don't like what we say.
Go ahead
So
and finish up what you wanted to say
well,
there.
that's what I wanted to say was that's just that, that they hit us a little late on that one. They were a little late on the button. But the thing is that, yes, we do need a revamping of our court system in this country. It is owned by big business. It is owned. It is profitable to be a judge because a judge can be wined and dined and promised the world. With Pat Robertson's Law and Justice Center functioning, it's all about him benefiting and no longer, quote, being a second-class citizen. you've got these connections all across the cabal and the world.
Right.
And law it's out of the hands of the common people. It's gone.
Right. There's
We don't have any.
yeah. There's politicization of all these things in a DOJ, FBI, everywhere. It happens in every regime that gets in. They try to get their way through Congress. If they're the majority in Congress and in the White House, then they try to get their way, and they even push on the Supreme Court. And it's purely political that I'm looking at. Biden said, you just mentioned big corporations. Biden said yesterday in a speech on video in Pennsylvania, Labor Day speech to the workers there. He said that we beat Big Pharma. I don't think we beat Big Pharma. We're not going to beat those big corporations. Big Pharma is probably the biggest, what you're talking about, right?
Well, the whole situation that we can't talk about fed Big Pharma the biggest money ever influx in history. So when you're looking at what Biden and his others have done, they fed pharma, they nourished pharma, they fattened pharma, and so did Hollywood. So yeah, if he means that he defeated Big Pharma because he gave them the best meal they've ever had in their existence, then yeah, he defeated pharma that way.
Right. Okay. Let me get to a couple more stories here. This is kind of like what's going on with the violence, and none of us are liking this. I mean, we're going into it's just chaos is what we're going through. President Biden, he actually said he's going to fund the police more, but then I heard somebody say, well, let's wait until after the elections, and then that might be defunded. We don't know. Is it a temporary thing?
We need accountability. We need accountability,
right.
And we need the freedom for police officers to act with their conscience,
right?
Not under orders that are nefarious or doing harm to citizenry. So we need to rethink how the whole system works,
right?
Or we fund it any further. This one congressman who handles my sister is trying to get immunity for all police officers that he says they've never committed crimes. This congressman, FBI congressman, he's saying they never committed any crimes. Therefore, we need immunity for all police officers. That's not going to help police officers.
Right.
That's not going to help our situation. No. That's going to keep the bad apples getting worse and the good apples getting shut down.
Right. Well, to talk about a little crime here, the UPI has a story about Jeff German. He's a reporter for the Las Vegas Review Journal. He was stabbed to death Friday night, I believe it was, in front of his house. And they think it was some kind of it was something to do with he was covering organized crime. So this could be part of the deep state or whatever that doesn't want him to get the word out, or he knew too much. Those are things we have to be careful about too. And the UPI said in Saskatchewan, Canada, Damian Sanderson and Miles, his brother, went on a stabbing spree. They killed 10 people and 19 were injured. And the killers, they don't know why they did it. And one killer was found dead, but it wasn't from a self-inflicted wound. So the mystery goes on. They might know more today. I haven't heard. The second guy is still at large. And one guy was released. He spent 5 years in prison and he was released. Some victims were targeted, they said, but there's no motive. But it was they both had knives. Can you imagine killing 10 people and injuring 19 with just knives? My goodness, there was no guns involved. That's the only statement I'll say. No guns involved. In both of these cases I just spoke about, but there's no intent. It's just telling you that how can somebody do that? This world is crazy. Now, this is in Canada. They have their fair share too. Ukraine still on the offensive. They're pushing the Russians back in the east. And right now they have been shelling near these nuclear plants. I think there's 2 of them involved. And actually the UN inspectors are there, and one was actually shelled while 2 inspectors were close in the area. So the Russians are really serious about this crap. But also the UPI said Russia cuts off Nord Stream exports to Europe. This is really going to be bad for England, Germany, and all of them there in Europe. And they said that the European nation, their inflation and using gas, and Russia using gas as a weapon to actually put pressure on Europe to back off of the UN and NATO forces. And we will only pay 20% of what Europe will be paying for gas this year. And if they have a cold winter, it's going to be trouble for Europeans. I feel sorry for them. But we're only going to pay 20%. I don't know the total amount they're going to be paying. And then Russia says, well, due to the sanctions on Russia, their infrastructure and their oil lines were actually out of maintenance and out of control, and they still have to go through them and fix them. But through the infrastructure, I guess the sanctions, it's hurting them. That's what Russia said. What's your thoughts on that? Using it as a weapon?
Well, look at history in the broad strokes, and you see that war is considered an opportunity. They say it in Game of Thrones. They said it, different leaders in World War II. They say war is an opportunity. If we look at the mindset of the elite and what they really want, they have manufactured chaos and crisis in order to benefit from it. Now, the headlines will only show us the wars and the foot soldiers and things like that and the tanks, but you're not really seeing what's going on with the coaches of the game,
right?
The ones that are sending the people in,
right.
The ones that control the plays. That's where we need to look, and the money trails attached.
Right.
And when you do that, you find out the elite are doing exactly what they want to do. They don't care about destabilizing the world. They're counting on destabilizing the world.
And apparently they don't care about lives. I mean, they take lives left and right.
In fact, that's
yeah. There's World News UPI also said there was a Russian Lukoil head. He's a corporate head, dies after falling from a hospital window. They said he had severe illness, and he criticized the Ukraine war. So that's the illness he had, I think.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So
we know what's going on. We're not stupid. We know what's going on.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of people where their hearts gave out. What the hell does that even mean?
Right.
If would speak, that means they were killed.
Do you think they're involved in a deep state? Of course, Putin is probably.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're talking. All you need to look at the bank accounts. Who are your richest elite? And there's an agreement across the board. There really is an agreement across the board that they protect their own. And when I've been offered the chair so many times, when I've approached by different organizations, from the Alphabet Boys to Hollywood to Robertson's Religious Right, I have always heard the same thing. Even the Masons with operatives there. You're one of the elite now. You're one of the elite now. There's this automatic association that you're part of the elite. They say that, and that you're to serve that brother and sisterhood.
Right.
So everybody else is out of a job.
Right.
The common people do not count in the scheming. Yeah.
Why do you think the oligarchs of Putin? Why do you think they're backing off from him? What's going on there? And he's actually killing them. Here's another case too. There is several high-profile Russian oligarchs died under mysterious circumstances since the war began in Ukraine. BBC millionaire Novatek's former manager Sergei Protasenko and his wife and daughter in Spain while they was vacationing there were found dead.
Sure.
So they're
the elite see this as maneuvering. Lives don't count to them. And so what they're doing is they're maneuvering for their big moves. And so as people are collateral damage in their minds or targeted to make their position a little more stronger, this could be a dispute over coffee about someone's wife and they end up dead in the elite circles. The elite they almost act like we're shadows. Anybody outside the elite doesn't count. And I'm saying that, Dave, whenever I've been courted, they always said, you're one of the elite now, which means you're supposed to meet, it means you matter, that you will now have a different life. Even Sophia Stewart had come to me when I first came forward and said, you're one of the elite now, you're a celebrity. So what you have is a situation where they have the us against them mentality, the 1%.
Right.
But the Billionaires Club does have the feuding between the billionaires.
Right.
And so really there's no national boundaries when it comes to them. They jet over to China, they'll jet over to India, and they'll jet back to the UK. It doesn't matter. The world is their oyster. But when they cross each other, it's like the what's in the McCoys,
Right. I have to remind the audience that Tom Althouse, he's a screenplay writer for Hollywood, a musician, and also an author just like myself. And we might even get together on a project on this type of stuff, but he's telling his feelings from what really happened, real experiences that he's had with these people and what we're looking at today. And that's why he's so good at talking about behind the scenes of some of the stories that I'm reading off and keeping up with current events. And I think that what's going on in Russia and Ukraine is absolutely crazy. It's mind-boggling, the number of people that are dying, and Putin just keeps going. It's just mind-boggling, and we're not doing much about it at all. We're
a chess game. They
we,
call it a chess game.
we don't even count anymore. Europe, it doesn't even, they don't even look at our advice anymore. You know,
They call it chess.
Well, we know why. We don't really have strong leadership now. I'm sorry to say that, but that's true. Now we're getting back into the Biden and this thing here. We know about the killing and the lawlessness across this country. It's going too far, way too far. Well, every day we're seeing scenes of people being beat up and killed in the streets for nothing, just at random, and it's got to stop. You know, we got to do something. And this administration is not doing anything about it. Really, we're not doing anything about the border. Biden said that the current GOP is not your father's Republican Party, as he delivered remarks at the United Steelworkers Hall of America, Local 2227 Union Hall in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania, for his third visit to the Pennsylvania in 3 days. He cited the Unite the Rally. Unite the Right, not the right rally. Unite the Right, in quotes. I just saw that. That's why he got into the race, because he said in Charlottesville, Virginia, he saw that the swastikas and the chanting anti-Semitic bile chant in German, and the 30s accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan, and the guy that beat his last and the guy that I beat in this wrestling, when he said that there were really fine people on both sides. Biden said that, but that's old news. But we're getting to where that's where Biden said he wanted to get into the race and try to help straighten up this country. But now his division, he's dividing us more now with his rhetoric, right?
Well, it's exactly what they want. Biden's not the real power. It's the people behind him, the cabal behind him. And what's really wild, if you look at Wag the Dog, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at Wag the Dog. They'll shoot footage, and they'll be so fake, and they'll have actors running in front of the camera with tanks running by. And not that there's not violence in Ukraine, but they'll have these riots set up where they lay out the bricks for the people, and they can get the footage and have this occur. And maybe like 10 people, 20 people sometimes, they'll call it a big event, you know, with some signs. They'll try to film it to make it look big. We're in Wag the Dog. That's what we're at. And really,
both sides are playing this game. We got the rhinos
playing the game. That's right.
And the Republicans with the rhinos, in which Trump talks about. Well, the president went on further, Tom, to talk about this. He said the United States is at an inflection point, as he reiterated talking points from his speech in front of the Independence Hall on Thursday night, in which was one incredible speech. I've never heard that from a president before. That's where we talked about the rhetoric, and the temperature needs to be turned down. We don't want blood. We don't want any more. 2 years ago, this was happening. Cities were being burned down. Cops were being hurt and killed, and there's people being killed, but nothing was done. They played this merry-go-round thing. The criminals went in jail and they got out jail that same night to go back on the streets again. Nothing was done then. But January 6th, we got how many people? 45, 50 people, or that's in jail right now. They call them political prisoners. So where do we draw the line, and what makes sense? It doesn't make sense, does it, Tom?
Well, it makes sense if you look at from where the cabal's tactics are lying, and excuse me, they're trying to disrupt everything. They're trying to cause chaos, and you're supposed to look the other way. The best thing we could do as Americans is turn our attention to what's been taken from us and leave all their noise and rhetoric, the other sides, and focus on getting our rights back as a nation.
Right.
So we be focusing on getting our rights back and not be thrown off by the smoke and mirrors. So right now we should be pushing and pushing for fair courts, judges with accountability, police with accountability for their actions. And especially if they report that there are superiors that told them to do crime, then those superiors need to be revealed. It is not the idea of a brotherhood where you don't release what goes on in Vegas. Right. You've got to be able to reveal crime in law enforcement. And so that's what we need to be doing. And also get our rights back. Whatever was taken away from us by Bush on, back to even Johnson, we need to restore. It's like if they could have done that in Germany after the Reichstag bombings and things, and they suspended all the rights. If rights had been returned, give us back our teeth, give us back our rights, give us back our families, and the ability to take care of our own.
Right.
And then our country will thrive again. So that's what we need to be doing, is focusing on that.
Yeah, last week you alluded to Hitler and how he spoke to his people and he was lying to them. Well, we got the same similar situation here. I'm not calling anybody a Hitler, but the words back and forth are actually blaming each other for the exact same thing they're doing. It's just
that's so important. You just hit something, Dave, so important.
Yeah.
They've instituted the same thing that happened in Germany. They want that atmosphere. You know, it's the communists, the fascists, communists, the fascists. Right. They want this back and forth going on while new Hitlers come to power. Yeah. They're saying using the same formula, and now it's more dangerous because they've had the lessons from World War II that they took part in to perfect it. They say.
Well, listen, going on with the president's speech that he made Independence Hall, he said democracy is really at stake. You can't be a democracy when you support violence, when you don't like the outcome of an election. Let's go back 2 years and think about that. When all the cities were burning. You can't call yourself a democracy when you don't, in fact, count the votes that people legitimately cast. Does that mean, everybody? That's what he said. This is the PPI. This is not what we're saying.
This Biden?
That's Biden.
We're not a democracy. We're a republic.
Yeah, I know, but he's saying this, and it's coming from UPI, and yeah. I'm not getting into the back and forth in which that's all said, because nothing's been proven, and we're saying that now. Nothing's been really proven out in the open. Just a lot of rhetoric, a lot of conspiracies from the right, and a lot of I guess criticism from the left, and more than criticism, warnings, I guess. Biden continued his criticism of MAGA Republicans in earlier remarks at Labor Fest in Milwaukee, saying that extreme MAGA Republicans have chosen to go backward, full of anger, violence, hate, and division. Both sides have that. And then somebody said, where's the Republicans, the MAGA people? How much damage have they done to cities? How many people have they killed? There was just a January 6th thing that they've got them pinned on. And that was just a hodgepodge screw up, I think, from good people that had no, they had no intention to hurt nobody.
I think a lot of them didn't know what boundaries they were actually crossing, that
right.
They were actually, going to get footage and be seen. No one was planning on murdering people.
Right.
Unless there was some crazy in the group, but that doesn't account for the demographic of the group.
Do you know what? I wouldn't, if I was in that group, Tom, and I'm sure you wouldn't either, I wouldn't have went close to those steps.
No, you don't.
I would have just stayed out where you're supposed to be. I wouldn't have went in because you wasn't invited. Nobody told you can go in there, except the secret police did open up the doors. But there's been so many conspiracy theories about that, we can't even really nail down that January 6th. It's just incredible. But I don't like to see that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't have been involved in it. Okay, getting back to the 60-day rule, the Justice Department, they're talking about on this case with Mar-a-Lago and the documents and everything with Trump. They're saying that this week, today's day 61 before the election, and they said that there's a 60-day rule that they put in place, the DOJ, and they're saying that they won't go and investigate a candidate until after the election. So there's several things going on. Merrick Garland, he made this choice, and he said that, we're not going to go into a sprawling inquiry into January 6th, and we're not going to go into the documents at Mar-a-Lago. And he said until probably after the 60-day rule, after the elections, this November, then they'll go in and do some more investigating. Well, actually, the special handler will be holding them back anyway. So their case won't be done until after the election, or they even won't be starting back in the investigation on that until after the election. So that's why the DOJ is pushing to try to get this done so they can finish their investigation.
Yeah, sure. And again, it's about politics. It's about having an effect. There's a plan behind this. There's agendas behind this, and they want their way. It's nothing to do really with the law. It's simply political means, political, maneuvering.
Right. It's I just everybody looks at this stuff, and a lot of people don't look at the backside of it. But here, what we're doing is trying to look at the backside of these stories. Uh, this here is reclaiming.america.net. During a speech about his Safer America plan at Wilkes University in Pennsylvania late yesterday, President Joe Biden went off script several times. At one point, made a remark slamming right-wing Americans that had almost everyone in the audience scratching their heads. You can watch the video. The video was on TV, I believe, yesterday, and you can watch it, look it up on the internet. While criticizing right-wing Americans who fervently believe the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution that protects their rights and to own a gun, Biden said, their Second Amendment rights not unlimited right now. You can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't. I mean, I know the laws. In Illinois, we've got strict laws, and I'm for background checks and all this stuff, checking people out, making sure they're not crazy before they get a gun. And here's what he this is mostly silenced the crowd after this remark. Biden continued, "No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale we use. That's used to provide this, and who are they shooting at?" And he pointed at the crowd. He said they'll be shooting at you, followers of him, of Biden. And then he said, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You don't need some little gun to fight the country. So what is he threatening? This is division. This is talk I don't like. I don't. If Trump talked that way, I'd push my hands away from him.
You can almost say he's inciting insurrection.
Yeah.
You can almost argue that he's propounding violence.
Yes.
And that's the only avenue we got left.
Yeah. I just don't understand why he wants to talk this way. They said there has to be some kind of political motivation. Trump, with his rally the other night, he spoke, and he was only saying that he thinks Biden is the enemy, not MAGA. So but he didn't go into depth in it. He kind of stayed back away from it, not saying that his speech was all totally great and well, but it's back and forth, and you can't tell, and the conspiracies are flying. We're going to take a short break. We're at the first half of the show, and we're going to be right back. You're listening to Dave and Tom show, Dave Emmons, Tom Althouse, and listen for it on OdysseyRadioLive.com. And also, we're going to be putting it out on video on YouTube and Facebook and other media. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and that's how much of a break we take. This break is actually for the syndicated radio show WODY and Eddie Carson, and that's OdysseyRadioLive.com. And we're taking these breaks because that's what they need to. They have breaks in between their segments, so we're doing that. But on video, you're going to just see us sitting here looking at each other like, okay, what's next? But we're kind of thinking what's. And I want to finish up a couple of things here. Tom, of course, Althouse. He's a writer, screenplay writer. He actually wrote the Immortals, and they screwed him out of his the movie. They put it into the Matrix. Keanu Reeves, and he actually had legal documents that he's shown before, and he's for real on this. And he's got other shows or other movies scripts that he has, but he's withholding those. But there's a video clip on Lori Lightfoot, Chicago mayor, and she was talking about her and Governor Abbott of Texas are going back and forth at each other. And in a stunning display of sarcasm and arrogance, Lori Lightfoot, Democrat mayor of Chicago, has declared that she would be glad to drain the state of Texas of its residents after Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott started shipping illegal immigrants to her city. Now she's calling them, they're actually Texas residents and citizens that are coming to Chicago and leaving Texas.
Really?
That's a conspiracy, right?
I think it's the other way around. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
So many people I know, they're all coming to Texas. Texas is considered a haven,
right?
More or less. If the country's going bad, Texas is one of your safest, best bets because they're practically independent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So she's down on this thing about sending illegal immigrants to New York, Washington, D.C., and
Yeah.
soon Seattle, from what I heard.
Yeah.
So Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, whose city is plagued with spiking crime rates, was at first quick to condemn the arrivals of illegals at Chicago's Union Station. However, at a press conference at the end of the week last week, she changed her stance to a more welcoming one, except she spoke as though arrivals were Texas natives, as we just alluded to, not illegal immigrants. So, what a story.
You know what's so funny on the lighter side of all that?
Yeah.
Texans were actually leaving for Chicago. They'd all be coming back in the winter. They
Yeah.
wouldn't want to stay there. It's too cold,
Right.
too windy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I think what Governor Abbott is doing, he's doing in a kind of stressed out way, because he's overrun with people with they don't know what to do with all these people. They can't handle them all, and
There's
so
a
they
lot of crime. Houston's like almost the murder capital of the world right now.
right. Well, you know, before all this was going on, before Abbott was shipping people out, the government was actually flying people at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, flying into different cities across the country, illegal immigrants. So what's the difference? Doesn't make any sense.
No, that it's going to get a gray and a muddy mess. It's that whole topic's going to become a muddy mess, and we can make predictions in the future. But I think a lot of time, some party's going to go ahead and give them all a clean slate and say, anybody who's here right now, you're citizens. It's chilling, but that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a reset where you've been here so long, then you're a citizen, like squatters' rights. You watch.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. We need to do something because we have drugs, methamphetamine, fentanyl that's killing people, killing kids. So we need to stop that crap. We need to stop that from coming across. And let's have the remain in Mexico, where we can actually, a judge can actually adjudicate their asylum request. You know what I'm saying? That's simple. It's simple. Let's just do it that way.
You know, a lot of people don't realize that the cabal actually employs illegal immigrants to do their dirty work. The honeypot wife I had,
Yeah.
a lot of her family didn't have green cards, but they got them after she threw our case and was involved in running us down. And then the different people that were involved in breaking into our places were FBI brought in illegal immigrants. They're given jobs, but they have to do crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get into the cabal, like you're saying. I researched how the cabal could have got started, and there's several things going on. I can hold this up. It's pretty sketchy, but it's a report that I got off of Yahoo News, and it actually shows a picture on board Jeffrey Epstein's plane. There was a Brockman, a person named Brockman, Steven Pinker, Daniel Dennett, Katinka Madsen, and Richard Dawkins. I've heard of Richard Dawkins. Have you heard any of those names?
Pinker sounds familiar. I forget where I've seen. I saw a documentary with that name. But yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah, those were kind of like the first little initial startup group, as you call them. But yeah, it's interesting. I look back and I'm finding a lot of things that you were correct on, and all this actually started in the 70s. They had this think tank together, and it's they got into new technologies, media. They got into the spirit of the reality club, they called it, and what that was for was it was a back and forth discussions on hot button ideas driving the discussion today. They arrived at the edge of the world's knowledge. Seek out the most complex, sophisticated minds. There you go, asset, and complete the sophisticated minds, but put them in a room together and then ask them each the question they are asking themselves. And this is where they were getting all this, the emerging third culture, as they call it, the third culture beyond the scientific. And they were getting these people that were pretty smart assets, as you called them, got them together. And this was actually happened and started in the early 1970s.
Yeah.
And this, it was, entrepreneurs, rich people, of course, intellectual technology.
Of influence.
Yes. Yeah. It kind of sounds like that all club out in.
It shows you who the cabal's, what the composite or makeup of the cabal is, because each of them come courting you. You said like they're in a room, they'll discuss these things. I've been courted by IBM, FBI, CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, through Air Force Intelligence. Gave me testing and everything. I got a card from the FBI, please extend every courtesy. Religious right, Hollywood, Masons with CIA operatives courting me there. Even Italian mafia and film industry. It's like it goes on and on. So the cabal is an octopus with many, many arms.
Right.
And they're all agreeing on how they can divvy up the world like a pie.
Right.
And it transcends national boundaries. And so if you are a person of interest to them, like you said, the intellect, whatever, the influence, then they want you. If you don't do what they want, they accuse you of what was my answer when I said, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
In their eyes. Dared to face them down.
Right. And the source on this, Tom, is of course Yahoo News and also edge.org, the third culture. They've actually put this they published in 1995. Actually, this is information, like I said, you said it went back to 91 or 93, 95 in that area where they started a lot of this stuff. And they wrote the following about the project at the time of this guy's death. James Lee inspired the idea that led to the reality clubs and subsequently to the Edge, and is responsible for the motto of the club. He believed that to arrive at axiology of the societal knowledge, it was pure folly to go to a widening library, Whitner library, and read 6 million volumes of books. In this regard, he kept only 4 books at the time in a box, and he furnished the room and with the books, and he replacing them. And he was creating a world question center, and he planned to gather 100 most brilliant minds in the world together in a room and lock them behind closed doors, and then ask them each for their questions. Expected result in theory was to synthesize all thought between idea and execution are many pitfalls.
That's why they got so upset about the screenplay too, because it's got the Neuralink, iPad, Siri, all that stuff came out. So it's like they were like, what just happened here? So I became the dark horse in this whole picture. But it allowed me to see all the factions come at me and hear what they had to say as they courted. Right. So it puts me in a very good position to understand what's going on. And like when I was being groomed to be the face of the Christian Coalition.
Right. Well, this organization, edge.org, was launched in 1996, and the Reality Club. So this has been going on for 30 years. I heard somebody say something about that we went through a political, revolution 30 years ago. Starting 30 years ago, this stuff was being involved.
In 1996 is when the rug was pulled on me. That's when the Rockefeller Group, along with the Central Intelligence Agency at Camp Perry with Colonial Williamsburg Rockefellers, David Rockefellers, and the Religious Right, all in the same triangle, pulled the rug at me all at once in 1996. That's when I lost everything.
Yeah. Does this James Lee Byers, B-Y-A-R-S, ring a bell?
Sounds familiar, but I have to research what it was.
He was one of the Edge, I guess, initiates. He started, and he met with intellectuals from 1981 to 1996. They met in museums, restaurants. They kept it on the fly. The Reality Club members presented their work with understanding that they will be challenged. The hallmark of the Reality Club has been rigorous and sometimes impolite, but not ad hominem discourse. The motto of the club was inspired by the late artist, philosopher James Lee Byers. So he was one of the head dogs that started and his thought process going. Byers in 1969, they sought him out first to start this stuff, this John Brockman, both in art, and they had an interest in avoiding anesthetizing of wisdom. They didn't want to put down wisdom. They wanted wisdom to rise only for them, apparently. And then they mentioned the Steins, Einstein, Gertrude Stein, Winterstein, Wittgenster. This is German now. It's Wittgenstein, and then Frankenstein. Wow, I don't know how that got in there. Do you know
Stein too? Another Stein in 1996 was Wasserstein,
yeah.
Who was the lady who was supposed to take my work with Warner Brothers. She was a playwright who did Heidi Chronicles. So it's interesting. Then she ended up dead, but they gave it to Wachowskis. So 96 seems to be a pivotal time. That was when everything was really going down.
Yeah, and it says 1971 dialogue.
Yeah,
John.
if you're not with us, you're against us
Yeah,
philosophy. That would make sense that in 1996 everything was pulled on me.
right. Yeah, so this is interesting, and this is also from The Edge. It's their own history. And I got made some notes there. Of course, some of the German names I've had a little trouble with, except Frankenstein. I knew that. I saw Frankenstein. What did Frankenstein have anything to do with it? There was a woman who wrote that.
Shelley, yeah.
Shelley. What was that meant for? Was there any ideology behind that?
Oh, there's so much there. I mean, just thinking of it as the work and the ideas behind it. Of course, she started just telling stories, and then her friends like, write these down, write these down, write these down. They became very popular. But the idea of the childlike monster, that really there's an innocence within the monster, but once it's unleashed, it wreaks havoc. And so it's a sort of a tragedy story, but it's like, is it the monster's fault that it's doing all the harm?
Right.
And there's so much you can talk about in this whole interplay of what the ideas are and ideology behind it all. But really what we're looking at is groups doing the worst, individuals doing the worst crimes of humanity and in recorded history. And that could be, I mean, you go to Genghis Khan and go to Stalin, whatever. It doesn't matter. Right now it's the worst. It is the worst. What's happening on personal levels as they're out finishing the play of this, getting the final solution. They want a final solution. And it's like, no one's supposed to talk about it, and you're not supposed to draw attention to anybody behind the curtain. And I was told that if I behaved myself, that my last son would be alive and there'd be a place for me, and they said,
behaving yourself meant what? Do what they told you to do?
Don't talk, don't say anything about what's going on, don't talk about what I know, and don't let the public have any idea what's going on. And I would get a script doctor position where I'd be one of the highest paid people. Of course, I mean, Gates and Jobs took my stuff, and so did now Elon Musk too. It's like all my stuff that was in the screenplays and also what I came up with prior to the screenplay. So it's like, that's why they're so concerned about me as an author, along with some others. It's like they consider me like a Tesla. So like a dark horse that could disrupt the whole apple cart. And so, what I said to them was, I'm not here to upset the apple cart. I'm here to make the apple cart more accessible.
Right.
So I try to hit them with, intelligence back. And meanwhile, they'll go, oh, he's delusional. He's sick. He needs to be put away. He mumbles now. I keep hitting with intellect, and they're like fascinated on one hand by the stories and what you create, but they want to own it. Like Joel Silver said, he doesn't make art, he acquires it. Same thing Goering said in
right. Yeah. Yeah, it all goes back, doesn't it? Right now we've had past presidents, and I thought Bush was an innocent guy, and Cheney, but they know a lot. You got Donald Rumsfeld that was right there with him. They're part of all this too.
It's a hot mentality.
Yeah, it infiltrated our politics on both sides, not just one, on both sides. And where is this? What's this Owl Club thing out in
the Owl Club,
Washington State? Yeah,
I've heard a little bit about that. I think it's like Cross and Bones, things like that. Really, people need to understand that you're part of the club if you're wealthy. Even Pat Robertson says, if you're wealthy, you're blessed by God. If you don't have wealth, then God has judged you. It's like, what the heck? And he even says that there's laws of reciprocity where you will be given that God is bound to you by his own laws. What the heck is he smoking? So the thing is, that's the craziness out here. They've had all this power, but they want what they consider their underlings to behave themselves. So, I know the chair for me they kept pulling out is turned into electric chair, or they put away for the criminally insane. But what they say now is it's all lies. It's all lies. That's their calling card. You're delusional. It's like, please, guys. They use a hive mentality. I never fit into a hive. And many of us don't, that are higher thinkers like yourself. We don't fit into a hive. We fit into the freedom to express ourselves individually, love our families with that freedom also, and to do great work. Right. We don't want to be part of a dictated hive mentality, which means the evil the hive does, that we're supposed to go along with it. We can't function that way.
Right. I just look at how our country's going. I got brothers who I talk to, and of course I think, I can take it. I can take the world, what's going on in the world, but really it's a mess. The whole world is a mess, not just the US. We're infiltrated by New World Order people, deep state, and the politics is involved in all this. And right now, the driving force with Biden is his whoever is pulling the strings is making a lot of the calls. And it's I guess it's the other side too. Do we know exactly what's going on either side, Republican or Democrat? No.
They're all in the same thing. Like, think of it this way, Dave. I've been offered so many times position,
Right.
and they always say, like I said, you're one of the elite now. Your life is over as you know it. From Sophia Stewart to the guys at the CIA operatives in the Masons and Maui to the Camp Perry Naval Intelligence. They've all told me the same thing. So what happens is they give you quite a feast to chew on with your mind, which is, they're chewing at the bit to bring the change, eliminate a large portion of the population, and bring what they consider a stabilized world, a balanced world, a world that's clean, healthy, and they can just, what they figure is just the elite are in it, and then some are allowed to be servants. Really, that's the dream. It boils down to that. Everything else is a sideshow, distraction, and every war you have is profitable for them.
Right.
And it's also to take our minds off of what we need to be doing. What we need to be doing is getting our rights back.
Yeah, we need to be starting to act like a civilized country and a civilized world. I see this so much. They say there's all these people know each other. You take Bush, Al Gore, the Skull and Bones people. They were in a group.
Booze, Scotch. Yeah. Yep, they're all having it. Whiskey.
No, just right down the line, they know each other, and it seems like they're set up to be president or set up to run at least.
They're selected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Washington and our founding fathers. I'm doing a book on that, and I just finished those chapters. And they were involved in the Templars, the Masons, and then of course Saint Germain was some kind of a ET, I guess they call him, but they call them angels. They helped start this country. One nation under God is what they started. And Washington was unbelievable. He dodged 4 bullets. They hit his coat and his jacket. 2 horses were shot out from under him. He was kind of like really protected, and they said he had a job to do. And the angels were doing it, or the ETs were doing it. He was in his tent. So it's a fascinating story of how our country started, even under this whole shebang of deep state and who's running the country. It's
right. There's a chilling side note to this, Dave, is that Washington was actually killed by his doctors.
Yes.
Like they bled him, blistered him, everything else. He had a sore throat, I think it was.
Yeah, he had a bacterial infection. So they bled him out 40%.
Yeah. And so the thing is, it's like, it's kind of chilling because nowadays medical field, along with the psych field, is being employed with the legal side to all come in at once to subjugate anybody they need to bring down.
Right.
So it's a battle against the elite. Elite is battling with intellectuals. It's what happened in World War II Germany. So they're trying to take out those of us that might influence people. And there's the battleground, the power to influence. What was I accused of? Daring to face them down.
Right. And when they're done with you, it's just like Washington, they bled him out. And of course, Benjamin Franklin he's kind of weirdo. He had bones in his cellar, in France, and he was an ambassador. So he could have been an alien. We don't know what's going on there. But since I'm into ETs and aliens, I actually think that they're infiltrated within our government. They work in high places, banks, and all this other stuff. They're with us. They walk amongst us. How many books have been written by really famous people who said yes, they do walk amongst us? And I saw one. Yeah, I saw one. I met one. But we don't know for sure. They keep all this such a big secret. And all these people that meet together. What's this group in Germany? They meet once a year, all the elites. Sometimes they invite correspondents there, I guess ones that keep their mouths shut. What is this, the Bromberg or some kind of society there? I can't think of the name of that. I didn't research that. I didn't know he was going to get off on this, but it all rings true, that what's going on in the world. The elites getting together.
Yeah. What you said, because there could be contracts where certain people can't be touched. I mean, look at my son's being murdered.
Yeah.
My son's being murdered. I'm being told on the tape from Disney Contacts. Your last son's alive. We know you're concerned for his safety. That's supposed to shut me up and control me. But it was Aiden, my son, that said, you go ahead and keep speaking, Dad. Keep doing it. So the question is, are we being protected? And are we selected to receive certain knowledge and information? I mean, how can I, who was into creating strategic games when I was little and loved music and all this other stuff, but I wanted to have a good heart, be selected for all this knowledge, math, science, Neuralink, Windows. I pitched Windows and internet and all this stuff. And you look at history, not many people get all these downloads all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know an event that happened where I suddenly had all this knowledge. It just like pop, 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 pop,
Right.
pop.
Yeah.
And people got angry that I could figure things out so fast.
Right.
And so the layered thinking, I called it. And it's like, was that instilled? Was that something put in to me? And it's like, I believe yes. I believe yes. I mean, I got tested as gifted genius with tremendous empathy. Do I feel like a gifted genius? No. But when it came to the questions, it's like pop, 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 like that. No problem.
Yeah, you were being downloaded into. We mentioned groups like the Masons. Of course, when you get to the 34th degree, then after that, if they see you as an asset, then you'll go up into what Washington and Franklin did, the high up in which nobody knows. Yeah, but no, this is actually above them. There's a name I read in with George Washington. They go into like a top secret group. Above.
Right. That's why I was told that. I was told by Lauren Holmberg on Maui, CIA operative. He said, like, we're going to tell you things that are going to blow your minds. And I was being fast-tracked chair. I was hopping chairs like nothing, like 5 chairs gone, 5 chairs gone.
Right.
You know, it's supposed to take a year for a chair at fastest. And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think what's going on is they know who the assets are. They know who's been selected for downloads. If we really just want to open it up, I really believe that's the case. And so we're basically untouchable, but our children aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing what's going on. It's more than just a surface war.
Right. I want to mention this last group, besides the Masons and the Templars, the Illuminati, in which you're familiar with. I see a lot of advertisement. This is commercial Illuminati. And these are the ones who buy the T-shirts and they make the signs. They're not Illuminati. The real Illuminati function just like you were saying, the Cabal. The Illuminati believe in arranged marriages, do not allow their members to marry a non-member. Bingo. If someone says their spouse isn't in it, they either aren't Illuminati or they are in denial. And this is an unbreakable policy. The marriage was arranged by the local leadership council to another ranking member. Now,
that's right.
That's the top secret.
I don't know if I told you, the honeypot wife.
Right.
When I was in California, and Aiden noticed this too, that she was starting to swing. She was starting to swing where she wanted to be with us as being successful, because we were making it happen. They were having trouble with the Fingers family, Batman family. And she came to me and said, Tom, they're going to get rid of me. They're going to get rid of me. It's like, if you are accepted or brought back in by them, they're going to give you a different wife. She even said it. She knew. She was an insider. She knew what was going to happen. Isn't that something?
Yeah. And people must understand this is real. This is true stuff. That's why Tom's trying to enlighten you on this.
Unreal.
Yeah. And now you can read up on the Illuminati and what the real Illuminati. Now, people, I don't know if the Hollywood people that get up there and give these gestures of the Illuminati, if they're real Illuminati or they're just in a fan club. You know, the real ones operate just like I read off, just like you said. Are they all together? Cabal, Illuminati, and the higher?
No, there's factions. There's factions, and definitely factions. When I was at Robertson's organization, the FBI gave me that card, you know, please extend the courtesy, like I said. I had Italian mafia reps come up and they said, we're with you, but they were afraid of Pat Robertson's group. The Italian mafia out of New York was afraid of Pat Robertson's power.
Really?
That should give you a chill.
Right. Yeah.
And so the Cabal is not a cohesive group of bedfellows. It's like they're vying for power all over the place. The billionaires club, the elite, are not one big happy family. They'll share brandy and cigars, but there's a lot of intrigue behind the scenes.
It's interesting. All these top agencies, and people think about the Masons and they think they're bad. Not really. I mean, the lower rung guys are just in a club, basically.
The infiltrators are the ones that are bad.
Yeah, right. we're approaching the last minute of the hour. Anything else you want to say final?
No, I just want to say there's a real hope you just raised, that the cabal is not a cohesive structure. It is all about power for their members. Therefore, nobody is really on anybody's side within their structure.
Right.
So therefore, you know, they don't have that compassion element. They even said to me on the tape, you know, we recorded their contact saying, you know, Tom, they don't understand about compassion. And I said, what about compassion? It's like, well, there's your cohesive element. Compassion, that brings cohesion. But all about power means you have division all the time.
Yeah.
Something's got to be top of the hill at some point.
And that's what people have to understand, that the politicians are just the talking heads. They're actually puppets, you know, from all the world banks, everybody that controls the world. Well, that ends the Dave and Tom show. Dave Emmons and Tom Althouse, co-host here. And we trying to enlighten you, and we're trying to give you sources. We're not here BSing. We're not trying to talk conspiracies. We're talking things that really happen in this world. And be careful, you know, who you listen to out there in politics. But that's both sides. But listen to radio. That's WODY Radio. And that's Eddie Carson. And that's OdysseyRadioLive.com. He's got the audio portion. And we will put this out on video on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and also LinkedIn, and probably a couple more platforms that we're looking at. And thank you, Tom, for another good show. And we appreciate everybody that listened to us. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.